Welcome back, and thank you for joining for another one of Mike and Billy's whiskey reviews. Just Mike today, and I'm going to bring you the Kilkerran 12-year-old. This bottle I got to know quite a bit over the past few weeks before I brought it to you guys. Good friend Keith in Malt Man Cave gave me about 40% of this bottle left, and I've really been enjoying it. Keith knows I'm a huge peated whiskey fan, and anytime he gets his hands on some good peated whiskey, he usually saves me a decent amount of the bottle, and I really do appreciate that, Keith. All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about the Kilkerran. It's a 12-year-old whiskey, 46% ABV. Good ABV, uncolored, unchill filtered. It comes from the, I wrote this down, so I want to make sure I say it right, the Glengyle Distillery. So this is a peated version of the Glengyle, which is a Campbelltown whiskey, not far from Springbank. So I noticed in that region, a couple of the distilleries will make different versions of their whiskey and have different names for them, which I guess makes sense. Here in the States, our big beer companies, Budweiser or Buffalo Trace will make multiple whiskeys or multiple beers and just call them different things. So it makes complete sense to me that they would diversify that way, but it isn't something that I see a ton in single malt whiskey distilleries. Anyway, before I get too much over that, let me tell you a little bit what we know about this whiskey. Again, a Campbelltown whiskey. We know it's uncolored, unchill filtered. And we're about to tell you what we're going to think of it. And we know it's a peated whiskey. Big fan of the peated whiskey. Also, I was doing a little bit of research today about this distillery, or about this particular whiskey, and I know this distillery came back online around 2004. So they're just now kind of building up their stocks where they can release some nice age statement whiskeys. And I do know that for this particular batch, I believe they use 70% bourbon cask and 30% sherry casks. And again, it's a peated whiskey. And I must say, I like a taller bottle like this with a nice white logo. I think it looks very appealing. It doesn't jump out at you, but I like plain. And for someone who enjoys a simple look, this clear bottle with this white backing with black lettering, to me just says, try what's inside. Try what's inside. I'm not going to try to fool you with marketing and pretty pictures. Anyway, bit of a tangent there. So let's get into this Campbelltown whiskey. Let's see what we think. Smoky, similar to a Springbank or long row smoke. Kind of a musty smoke is what I mean by that. There's a nice citrusy note to it. Before I thought it was lemon, but as I've kind of worked the bottle down, I'm not sure if it's lemon anymore. Maybe like a salty orange. But a really good nose. I just did Lecheg 10, and I know this is 2 years older, but this has quite a bit better nose on it. It's a similar ABV. This one's 64. Lecheg 10 was a 60. Excuse me. This is 46% ABV. Lecheg 10 was 46.3. So very similar ABVs. Yeah, more than lemon, I think it's an orange. And a little bit of just the barrel, like the char on the barrel at the end. Yeah, let's take a sip and see what you think about it. Well, definitely that orange. Definitely that orange, and it is fruity. Man, but a nice, and this is something I've noticed in this, a nice ridge of vanilla after the initial citrus hit. So you get citrus right off the bat, and I think it's orange, almost like a sweet orange. And then maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seconds into it, man, you get vanilla. And a really nice vanilla with just a little bit of smoke on the edges. This is one I have really enjoyed, I have to tell you. Again, I got to think of my good buddy Keith at the Malt Man Cave to give me such a heavy wallop of this bottle. Is about a third of it left. Again, this is a bottle that when I researched it on Master of Malt, around a $40 bottle, so maybe it's a $60 or $70 bottle here in the States. This is a really good whiskey. I have really enjoyed this. After you don't take a drink for maybe a couple of minutes or as long as I've been talking, the vanilla kind of fades away and you almost get a butterscotch that is kind of similar to a Glenfarclas 17 as far as the aftertaste. So imagine a Glenfarclas 17 with just sprinkling vanilla on the top of it. That's what this aftertaste is like, and it's really, really nice. Added a little bit of water to it. Maybe I'll put a dab bit more. I have found that I prefer this whiskey without water, or at least my previous tastings, which I think I had two with this bottle. I thought I preferred it better without water, but I always want to give you guys both sides of the coin, so to speak. So let me tell you guys what I think with a little bit of water in here. Definitely fruitier with water. You know what's weird? Earlier when I said initially on the palate that I got a lot of lemon, but now I think it's orange. Actually on the nose I get lemon, but on the palate I get orange, a sugary orange. But on the nose it smells like a lemon. Maybe some other type of fruit. Lemon lime maybe? Weak lime, strong lemon. Just a little bit of salt here at the end. This is a really rounded, robust, full whiskey for a 12-year-old whiskey. This is really pretty impressive. I'm gonna get another bottle of this just to see if maybe, since the first time I had it, I was overly impressed, but I will say this. This was a bottle I was super impressed with after Keith left. Usually Keith and I would get together, sample, dozen whiskeys or so together. Maybe 5, 6, 7 of mine, 5, 6, 7 of his. And some of these whiskeys that are, not saying in a negative way, but some of the basics of the distillery or the ones that don't have a high age statement on them, we just tend to overlook. But when you kind of go back to them and single them out and just drink them exclusively for a day or two, they really come out and show their beauty. And this is a distillery that, if you've been disappointed with, say, Ardbegs, NAS Ardbegs or NAS Lafroigs lately, and you want a peated whiskey and you're a huge peated whiskey fan, as I am, if you can get your hands on this bottle, I think you'll be impressed. This has some elements of Kalila 12. This has some elements of the Springbank and the Springbank 10 and the Long Row peated. It's just a really nice, full whiskey that does a lot of things pretty well. And I'm pretty excited about it. I tell you what, I'm going to give it an 89 out of 100 before I take my last sip of the water. More of the same things. Citrus, orange, vanilla, luscious vanilla. Vanilla and butterscotch almost interwoven together with this one on the aftertaste. That's good whiskey. If you get your hands on it, I'm sure it'll pay well less than $100, no matter where you are in the world for this type of whiskey, or at least I would hope you'd pay less than $100 for wherever you are. If you're a fan of peated whiskey, I would suggest it for you. If you're a fan of a whiskey that is, you like fruity whiskeys, like a Balvenie 15-year-old single barrel, the non-sherry cask, try this whiskey. If you like the Springbanks, like the Springbank 10 or the Long Row peated, this is a better whiskey than those, but maybe not as good as some of the other higher versions of the whiskey. So just to let you know where you stand with this one. So again, 89 out of 100. It's good whiskey. Hope you guys enjoyed my review on it. I want to thank you for joining us for another one of Mike and Billy's whiskey reviews. Billy's coming back to do some bourbons with me here in a couple of weeks. We'll get those out to you soon. And until then, I will see you in the comment section, and I wish you a happy